Hey everyone, welcome to an episode of The Stone Genius. My name is Ro, I'm the Stone Genius. You know me, I'm often stoned, I'm always a genius. Another video episode. You guys probably can't hear the lead-in music, so if you're wondering why Tim's just dancing to the sound of my voice, I don't
just
know.
love it so much. It's a music. You have a musical intonation to your voice, bro.
Aw, thanks. See, and I can do all these sounds in the background, and people have no idea what I'm doing in the background.
That's one of my favorite parts of this show too. That you have the drop. I've been on so many. I do so many of these podcasts promoting my movie Man Baby, and you've got the drops, which I love those. So, anyway.
Well, and I enjoy, if I can hit the right button at the right time, I enjoy them also. So today, award-winning producer, director, writer, Tim Lightell joins the program. I know you've already talked, but I needed to introduce you anyway. And we are doing a holiday movie special. And in fact, I never think about what I'm going to wear until I thought about video. I'm like, what am I going to wear for a Christmas movie special?
Yeah,
so
I thought the same thing. Oh, this is
my Clark Griswold.
Griswold.
So
nice.
I decided. So as a Tampa Bay Lightning fan, it pains me to wear another team sweater, but because they are called sweaters and not jerseys, it always allowed me to get, when you could wear your Christmas sweater, I would just wear this, and people would be like, that's a hockey jersey. I'm like, well, it's from Christmas Vacation, and these are called sweaters, not jersey. Leave me the fuck alone. Hold on. See, and that's a sound that we can hear on this side.
Right. You're just going to do it with your mouth. You're just going to do the trumpet.
Well, I could do that. Yeah. Parameters. I started thinking about this, and I don't know what the parameters of a holiday movie actually are.
Yeah, that is the big debate, I think, across culture right now, is like what makes a holiday movie, what makes a Christmas movie. I probably should have come with some sort of definition, but I do not have a definition.
Well, I didn't have one, and I didn't think about it. I was thinking about movies I like to watch at the holidays, but then one of the issues that I had. So, and you sent me a list. I purposely did not send a list to you.
Okay.
We do share some of the same movies. We don't. I forget how often I talk with my eyes closed as I'm just thinking in my head, and that doesn't bode well for video. I mean, hey, because I also found out when I'm doing these clips, when I rely on AI, I used to always wonder why the thumbnails were always like, and it's because AI does that.
They
like
make it into something goofy. Yeah.
Yes, they do. Because I was like, why would you pick that picture? But
biggest
then
eyes, maybe it's searching for the eyes. Is that what it is? Maybe.
Oh,
searching for the open eyes. You know, like the
maybe
or the open mouth.
Yeah, it was just weird because I was always blaming the people, and I'm like, that's fucking AI. But that's what it's trying to do. AI is trying to put a wedge in between us and keep us apart however it can. So a lot of people say Die Hard is a great Christmas movie.
This is the great debate.
Yeah, I disagree with that on many levels, and that's what got me starting to think about parameters and what really should dictate a movie. So what is your take on Die Hard, the original Die Hard?
Yeah, I mean, the original Die Hard is, I mean, I guess it's a Christmas movie. I'm going to disagree with you. I think it is a Christmas movie. I think because it takes place in Christmas, and Christmas is pretty thematically important to the movie. And I guess that's my parameter to a Christmas movie.
See, and I disagree with that point because to me, and I haven't watched it in a long time, honestly.
Yeah.
But I only remember him going to Nakatomi Plaza because his wife had a Christmas party.
Right.
And he'd run around, and every once in a while you may see a tree or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't, to me, it had a Christmas element, but I
Yes.
wouldn't call it a Christmas movie
You know,
just because it had
right, when I first watched Die Hard when I was a kid, I wouldn't have called it a Christmas movie. It's
right.
only something that later I said, "Oh, I get it." It's like, and they do it subtly. It's a lot like that other movie on my list, Eyes Wide Shut, which I think is maybe even more a Christmas movie um than Die Hard. It's a subtle little thing in Die Hard, and I think you know, yeah, it's a Christmas movie for me just because it relates to the theme in Die Hard. It relates to the coming together of
Of the
the
family.
couple, of the family. Yeah,
So
of the
so
family.
so let me ask you this. Do you know the release date
Of
of
Die
Die
Hard?
Hard? Yeah. Yeah,
Was
month.
No, I don't.
Do you know
I
the
have no
month?
idea. Was
It
it a
was
summer movie
released,
or was it a Christmas
yeah,
movie?
July 22nd of 88.
Summer movie. Yeah, it
Yeah.
seems like a summer movie. I mean, that
I
seems
mean,
like a summer
it is
movie.
because it's an action movie, but once again,
Yeah,
that's when I started thinking about parameters. Then I'm like,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
well, it came out in the summer, so it's not
Right,
because
right, right.
originally when I had thought about this, I was thinking about the movies that I want to watch during the
At
holidays.
Christmas, right, in the
Yes,
holiday time. Yeah, yeah,
right.
yeah.
And that's why that didn't. I mean, if it came on and there was nothing else on, I would probably watch it. But
Sure,
I wouldn't. To me, it's not a Christmas draw. So that's kind of
sure.
what got me thinking on parameters. And then I had to disregard parameters because if we got too tight on what's a Christmas movie, then none of my
Yeah.
movies would probably
Well,
make the
if
list.
if if I use that parameter as like memorable movies during the holiday season, like I'd have some
Yep.
real weird ones. I'd have some real weird ones. Like I have a very I have a very distinct memory of the movie Nixon during the Christmas season during
I
high school. So about 95, 96, I guess that movie came
right.
out in around the Christmas season. Very strong memories of seeing that. Very strong memories in college. Any Given Sunday, another
Oh
Oliver
yeah.
Stone movie around
Right.
Christmas. So, and those are
Huh.
obviously not Christmas movies at all. But
It,
if that was a parameter, then I have very very strong memories of those.
and it's funny that you mentioned that because I'm going to write down a movie that I hadn't thought of, which is not I wouldn't think of it as a Christmas movie, but now that we're talking about this, it is if someone said name a movie at Christmas time, first thing that comes to mind, it would be Three Amigos.
And that did that come out in Christmas time?
No,
I don't remember
I
when that
don't
came out.
think so. So
But you
this
watch.
was back in the late 80s.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we were going to see my grandparents out in North Carolina. Most of my cousins and us, we lived in Kansas City. And so they thought, you know, as one would, why don't we rent a 17-person van, put like 12 people in it, and drive 17 hours or 13 hours, whatever it was, to North Carolina to hang
Right
out?
on.
Well,
Let's do
at
it.
this time, to do it because there are kids, and we're late teens at this point, teenagers for the most part,
Okay.
all of us. And there's six of us. No, my sister wasn't there, so there's probably five of us because there were there were cousins. It was me and my sister, and then we had two sets of cousins each, boy and girl. And so there were five of us, and then the adults that went as well. So I think it was like 12 people that went, and we had a VHS, VCR, a little like 9-inch or 13-inch TV that you could plug into the cigarette lighter, and we were going to take that so we could watch movies.
Nice.
And so we took Three Amigos,
Nice.
which is a stupid movie. And the only reason I remember it is my mom the whole time, because I don't think we had very many movies. So we're watching the same one over and over
Over again.
as kids would. And I just remember the adults saying, "What's funny about this movie? What's funny about this movie?" But it was just so tied into Christmas. And the only other one that I remember, which makes my list, is Christmas Story. Which, oddly enough, here's something.
Everybody's list.
40 years ago, the day before we record this, yesterday, 40 years ago yesterday is when Christmas Story was released.
So the November
83.
Was it 2020?
18th.
November 20th? November 18th.
November 18th of 1983.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Right. Smart marketing.
Yeah, yeah, and it
You
was
know?
I remember I think I must have seen it in '84. So it used to be that our families would get together on Christmas, all the aunts and uncles, my mom's brothers and sisters all lived in town. So we would
Mhm.
all get together for the holidays, and a lot of times it became tradition that we'd go after we ate, we would go to a movie. And
Yeah.
so I just remember that
Yeah.
we went to see I don't even think I'd remember hearing about this movie, but I remember seeing it at the Dollar Theater
Uh-huh.
on Christmas Day, so I assumed that it probably was a year later they brought it back to the Dollar Theater or something because I even remember where I saw it, but that's the only other movie that I really remember. Three Amigos in the van, but the only other thing I remember on Christmas Day, we went to a lot of movies
Yeah.
because movies were always a big deal for me personally and around the holidays.
Definitely.
So,
Definitely. Well,
yeah.
lucky you for seeing A Christmas Story in the theater. I don't think that I've ever seen A Christmas Story big. You know, I don't think I've ever seen
Really?
it projected. I projected it because I have a projector at home,
Right?
but I have not watched it on 35 millimeter film or or with other people projected. You know what I mean? Like I've never had that experience. I don't think um I think the first time I saw it was TBS, and the last time I saw it
Yeah.
was TBS. You know, and
Yeah.
and and uh, that is I love that movie. I think that's a great
I do, and if it's
movie.
on, I will watch it. I usually will
Almost
not
always,
seek it
right?
out during the
Yeah,
holidays,
yeah.
but I do remember seeing it in the theater. It was Watts Mills Theater at 103rd and State Line in Kansas City,
Nice.
Missouri. And I remember laughing out loud when the kid, they put so many clothes on, he couldn't put his arms down to his side.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've always said that that's why I like to be hot. I can always take off enough clothes
Right,
that I'll be
right,
comfortable, but there's only so many clothes you can put on before you become
right.
immovable. And that's kind of what that showed in there, depicted. And so
Sure.
I always thought that was hilarious. And I remember laughing out loud at the theater seeing
Yeah,
that movie. So
yeah,
that
yeah.
was
No.
that that's on my list, but it was actually low on the. Now, let me ask you this. Um, so you shared your list with me. A couple of them I didn't think about. Gremlins. I know I've seen Gremlins, but I don't remember it that much. I mean, I remember what they were. You couldn't
Yeah,
feed them past midnight, get them what.
yeah.
There's some like parameters, but I remember that came out in the summer because that came out the same day as Ghostbusters.
No
And I
kidding.
worked at
No kidding.
Ranch Mart.
Gremlins and
It was I
Ghostbusters.
think it
Okay.
was I think it was June 8th of 1983, 6/8
Wow.
83. And I looked it up recently. That's the only
Yeah.
reason I remember that. But because I was like, why couldn't it have been 6/9? And but they came and I worked at the theater. And at that
Okay.
time, you had one concession stand and there weren't really like lines, or it was just a blob. And whoever
Uh-huh.
got the attention of the person next, that's who got their candy or drink next. And I just
Dang.
remember it being a sea of people nonstop. From the
I
time I
bet.
started, the
I
time
bet.
it was, and so as Gremlins and Ghostbusters came out the same day, and it
two
was in
two
summertime.
blockbusters, I'd say, right?
Yeah,
Do you have any information on Gremlins box office? Did that do? I assume Ghostbusters was much more successful.
it was, and I can't remember the rating. Was Gremlins a PG-13 or was it just a PG?
I think
Because
Gremlins
it's
was just
really a horror
PG.
film, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's
It's
pretty
really a
scary.
horror film.
It's got
Yeah.
some scary parts. The thing, I don't know if you remember the part in Gremlins that I associate with Christmas so much is Phoebe Cates tells a story about why she doesn't believe in Santa Claus. Do you remember this
Eh,
part in
I
Gremlins?
don't. I don't.
I wish we could like pull it up. I wish we could like go to the tape and pull up that scene. But essentially, what happens in the scene is, I don't think the Gremlins are not wilding out yet.
Right?
I think the main character and Phoebe Cates are walking home from the bar where Phoebe Cates where she's moonlighting. You know, she works at the bank, and Gremlins is an interesting movie. Gremlins has a lot of like, kind of the dark side of Reagan's America, I think,
Right.
a little bit. And she tells a story about how she doesn't celebrate Christmas because her dad went missing around Christmas when she was a kid, and they couldn't find her dad. They didn't know where her dad was. And then I guess a couple days after New Year's Eve, they started to smell something in the chimney, and
Oh no.
her her father had dressed like Santa Claus I'm laughing about this. It's terrible to think about if it was real, but it's so ridiculous. It's
Right.
so over the top. They find his rotting corpse dressed like Santa in the attic, in the family's attic, and that's why Phoebe Cates' character doesn't celebrate Christmas.
I
Now
see.
you think he would know that story too. Like
Right.
she tells the story. They live in this small town. That seems like a pretty big fucking event in a small town like that. That the guy dressed as Santa and he gets stuck and broke his neck. He died instantly. I remember her saying that he died instantly. He didn't suffer at least.
Oh, well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
That's why I never put any effort towards the holiday. I never dressed up. Actually, I take that back once. I was dating a girl that was in a sorority. Dating may be a very loose term, and they needed a Santa Claus. And I'm 6'5", like 170, and I probably wasn't 170 back then. I was probably even thinner. And so I was like thinking, who wants to see like Santa Claus? And then I was like, I'll do it. That's fine. Whatever.
That's a tall Santa Claus.
Yes, but at Christmas parties at sororities, girls tend to like to drink. Yeah. And they tend to like to sit on Santa's lap and tell Santa secrets. Wow. So it was very, I was like, wow, this is.
I feel like we should derail this whole episode. I've never dated a sorority girl. What is that like?
Date would be a loose term that we may use on that. Yeah. So, but it was.
I'm fascinated by the whole sorority thing. I've watched Bama Rush on HBO Max, and I'm fascinated by these same-sex communities. It's a endless fascination. As far as dressing up goes, I really wanted to wear a Santa hat for this episode because you said it was a Christmas episode, and then I realized that would be really silly because I don't really celebrate the holidays. I don't go for these pagan rituals. So I said this end.
You don't go for them yet.
Right. My
there's always
arc.
Time. Yep.
Yeah.
You may get done with this episode and go, gosh darn it. I am finding a church for December 25th this year.
Well, after this episode, there might be 3 ghosts that visit me for all I know, because I am a bit of a Scrooge. I thought maybe this N would be like for Saint Nicholas. Maybe I could say that. And I did wear red, so that, But anyway, that's all works. I could do for the holidays.
So
I love Gremlins. I love Gremlins.
I was gonna dress up like Elf, but I don't have the outfit. And I will tell you, I do. When you put Elf, I was like, yes, that is a great Christmas movie. I love that. But here's the thing: being someone who is adopted, and I know who my birth dad is, he doesn't know who I am. I know where he lives, and I've always said I wanted to show up on Father's Day to Savannah, Georgia, dressed as Elf and sing the song, "You're my dad, I love," whatever that song is, and sing it to him. I thought that would be funny, but then it's also Savannah, Georgia. Okay, and I figured me wearing yellow tights, I may not get to the point where I get to perform that piece for my father. So, I always think of it more of a father-son finding each other and making things work out type movie instead of a Christmas movie. But it is an amazing Christmas movie. So,
and I definitely saw that at Christmas in a theater too. That's definitely I was of age by then, and that I guess came out. It was cold when I saw it. I don't know if I saw it like. Do you know the release date on that one on Elf?
I don't.
Was it?
No.
Okay.
I don't.
But it was cold. It was definitely like it was snowing in New York. And funny story with watching Elf, I was in the theater watching Elf, and you know how it starts with the it's like a snow globe and like kind of like animated characters. I think is maybe how it starts. And probably about 2 minutes in, so it's obviously a Christmas movie, obviously about an elf because the title says Elf. This guy turns to me and my friend and goes, "This isn't Fast and the Furious, is it?" Because I guess one of the Fast and the Furious was out, and we shook our head and he laughed.
It is.
He thought he was watching Fast and the Furious. So
yeah, it is sled edition. So when they pull out the Santa sled and everything. So let me ask you this now also. How many movies were you able to... So what were your kind of parameters when you came up with your list for
I should check my notes here. Let me check my
Okay.
notes that I have. But my parameters were basically uh just movies that I call Christmas movies. So it's totally like a personal thing. And just my favorites.
Right.
Essentially, I just was thinking of my favorites. What are the things that I like that I've watched over and over again? These are movies that I watch during the Christmas time, but they're also things that I watch, during the year, whenever I want to feel Christmassy.
So
the thing for me is
how many did you come up with?
Let's see. On my list, I had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
7.
Looks like I put Home Alone on here, not once but twice, and then I also put Home Alone 2. But I love the Home Alone movies so much.
It's weird because I forgot about that too. But
so much
that
fun.
Is great. Yeah,
and they make me laugh so hard, and they're just so like over the top. Like the things he does to the bad guys,
the wet bandits.
The wet bandits are just so cruel and so like. I mean, it really is it's a balance between like, okay, do we make, I don't know how they thought of this stuff, but it's like I can just imagine the meetings where they're like, okay, this is cartoony, they're getting hit with sledgehammers and Joe Pesci's head is on fire,
right.
But yeah, like but it's kind of played straight. Like it's not cartoony. It's a very strange.
I wonder if they
tone.
went to like a house and was like they went to a basement or to a room and were like, okay, if we needed to protect it, what could we do? And then just throw out every idea. Oh, if we take a paint can and put it to a string, then we can use it and swing it here. So yeah, it was funny that I forgot about that movie. Another one that I don't seek out. It is something that I remember seeing. I'm sure I saw that in the theater. And that was
me too.
That's John Hughes, correct?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
No, actually. Home Alone is I think it's Chris Columbus. It's John Hughes produced. But I think it's actually Chris Columbus. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that John Hughes did a lot of movies like during the 90s, and I remember them all kind of lumping together.
Yeah,
one of my favorites.
Yeah. No, it's John Hughes produced, but Christopher Columbus is the director, who's kind of got an unfortunate name.
and that's one of those movies that if someone mentions the movie, there is one specific scene, and it's the tarantula scene on Daniel Stern. That scream.
Yeah.
That's one of those things that you'll always remember because it was so funny because that's not the scream that you were probably expecting for Daniel Stern to put out. So that was
right. Yeah,
that was a good one. So what did you have ranked as the lowest of the movies on your list?
I mean, I would say,
or is there an order?
It was not really it was not really a ranking. I mean, when I'm thinking about like my favorite movies of all time, Eyes Wide Shut is kind of definitely up there, maybe not in the top 10, but it's in the top 20, I'd say.
Now, let me ask you this. I know what Eyes Wide Shut has Tom Cruise, Nicole Kidman in it. That's literally all I know. There's like a masquerade ball or something. Yeah. They drive off a bridge.
Go tonight and watch it. I highly recommend Eyes Wide Shut to all people. It's a strange movie. Stanley Kubrick's last movie. It's not really a comedy, but it's kind of camp, but also kind of very serious. Really? It's a really unique movie. Really something to see. See it with other people too. Don't just watch it by yourself. See it with some other people, and you can kind of talk about what the hell did we just watch.
Right.
Because you're gonna say that. You're gonna text me. You're gonna say, Tim, you told me to watch this movie. What in the hell were you thinking?
So
that kind of movie.
What ties it? Is it set at the Christmas time, or what ties it into?
Yeah, it's set at Christmas time. It's in 1999, New York City. Turn of the century, Christmas time.
Is that when it came out? 1999 as well.
So was it contemporary? At Christmas time too, actually, which kind of makes it a little bit more of that Christmas feel than Die Hard. Even though it is like Die Hard, Christmas is not the foreground. Christmas is merely the background.
Right.
And I think in Eyes Wide Shut, the background of Christmas is actually way more important than in Die Hard. But it's a similar thing because it's about family and relationships and that sort of thing. So the Christmas element of Eyes Wide Shut is very, very important. If it was set during summertime in 1999, it would not be the same. And yeah, a pre 9/11 New York is very interesting.
Front and center.
Very interesting setting for that movie. Yeah, front and center.
You know, it's weird. You know, I see less and less of that because I just don't watch movies. I get set pre 9/11 that were made before that. But what I found out, Bobby has been watching a TV show. I think it's called Southern Comfort, and it's set in like Charleston. And there's like 9 seasons, and she started watching from the beginning. And it was so weird to see the change happen because you forget what pre-pandemic life was like sometimes. And like all the stuff they were doing, it's like, oh, I totally forgot we could do that.
Yeah.
And then when they hit the pandemic and how it changed. So it's kind of weird. And that's closer, but I do understand what you mean by the pre 9/11, that sometimes you see that. I was watching, this is actually, it could fall on a Christmas list. I think it's called Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines.
Yeah, I know that one.
Okay, so at that movie, you know, I think it was, I want to say, some reason I want to say Chicago, but I think that the Twin Towers were in there for some. I think at the beginning.
I think Running Scared is Chicago, though. Actually, I think it is.
Yeah,
in Chicago.
And that's what I was thinking. But for some reason, I want to say it, and maybe I'm tying that movie into something else. But whatever I saw, it was just weird seeing the movie and then like panning the skyline and the
maybe
Twin
they
Towers
go to New York at some point. Running Scared. The thing in my mind of Running Scared is I think there's like a Kenny Loggins music video, right? With like the song from Running Scared. Does that ring a bell to you at all?
There is. And the reason I remember it, being from Tampa, the Buccaneers were just god fucking awful. And this movie would have come out in like 86. And so they were like, they've won some Super Bowls since, but they were still in their fucking god awful stage. I mean, just horrendously awful. And I think it's Billy Crystal's character. One of them has a Tampa Bay Buccaneer hat on it. And being in Kansas and everything, I would always get shit for wearing my Buccaneer stuff, especially because it's bright orange or creamsicle, as we called it. But I remember that movie so much because of that. It's weird because I recall a lot more of the movie as well, but that is the thing that really stands out about Running Scared, is that there was a hat. But I do remember it being at Christmas time, I think, as well. So what was your 6? I only had 5, and we can keep talking about that if you want. But I was going to say I only have 5, so we need to knock out your bottom 2 before we.
Okay, so wait, so Eyes Wide Shut, I'd say was top. Let's jump ahead. Let's go back. Let's go to the bottom.
Okay,
I'd say my bottom's probably Gremlins. You know, Gremlins is a great movie, but it's probably not. You know, I don't know. I you know, if we're actually ranking, Gremlins is at the bottom. The next on that list, we talked about Gremlins. I think so. Okay, so for your parameters, though, do you call Gremlins a Christmas movie, even though it was a summer release?
Yes,
I think
we'll get to my number 1, and so I have to say yes. Okay. It has to be released outside of the traditional holiday season. So
sure.
So yeah, and so I'll have to watch Gremlins again. Because I remember, I think what my problem was is I worked at the.
Go ahead.
I was going to say I worked at the theater, and I think probably a lot of my trouble at that point is when movies were out, you would see them in bits and pieces. So like when you had some downtime, you'd be one of those people that worked at the theater that'd go stand in the back, and so I would watch a movie 10 or 15 minutes at a time, and I may see the same part over and over, and then I have to wait for another. So I really don't remember a ton of Gremlins.
I just think we can definitely say it's a Christmas movie because it's the inside. I mean, the Gremlins are a Christmas present to the main character.
So
So
that that
I mean,
would
come on.
dictate
I don't think there's any debate there. You know, it's
Yeah,
not a
I
Die
mean,
Hard
if
situation.
Die Hard's gonna be, if you go to a party and that constitutes Christmas, then
Yeah.
yes, getting a
Yeah.
gift should
And
constitute
I'd like to
Christmas.
add, Die Hard is not on my list. I mean, I consider Die Hard a Christmas movie, but I'm not a huge. Die Hard's a
The
fine
studio
action
audience is
movie.
going crazy.
The
It
studio
is.
audience is going crazy. It's a fine movie. It's fine, but you know, give me a break.
Hold on, hold on. I know you're not going to be able to see this. I'm going to have to take a picture of it. Let's see. Right here, I wrote Die Hard is fine, and then I put all these little starbursts around because it is. It's fine, and then I also wrote. It's funny but
people have a cult of this Die Hard, and I think it's a bit ridiculous, right? It's a bit tiresome. Come on.
Yes. And I said that I think what people like most about Die Hard when it came out is it introduced the dad bod. Because Bruce Willis was the first one that because remember at that time it was Arnold, it was Jean-Claude Van Damme, it was
Schwarzenegger,
those were the people that it was. So that's what it was, and then all of a sudden you had John McClane,
right.
Yeah,
he's a family man. Yeah.
But it's funny. I wrote down dad bod, but I did write down fine, and I put little sunbursts around it because I really do. The movie is fine, and that's as much as a ring. It's funny in my current job. Every once in a while, someone will try on a really expensive shoe, and they'll be like, "That's fine," and I'll always reply, "Oh, the ringing endorsement of that's fine," and they always laugh at that because if I'm asking you to spend $400 on something, you want better than just fine.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
Okay.
I often do this, you know, it's a thing I do, you know, with a buddy of mine. It's like when we see a movie and it's like, I get it. You know, it's like, yeah, I get it. I get this movie. That doesn't mean that I like it or that, you know, just because I get it, I actually don't want to get a lot of movies, you know, I want to be challenged. So anyway, the next on my list was Home Alone #2.
See, and I
Lost in New York. He goes to
Okay,
Manhattan.
now I do remember it. Okay.
And
was that with Trump in it or with Trump not in it?
Yeah, Trump's in it. And
didn't they edit him out or something during
I heard that. I feel like I read something about that they were cutting him out for the Disney Plus version, maybe, or I don't know.
I'm like, oh my gosh, just let it go.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, but I actually think Home Alone 2 might even be superior to Home Alone 1 in some ways. It ups the ante.
It was an older Kevin McAllister at that point.
He's a little older, and now he's not just in a house; he's got New York. And I think when I saw Home Alone 2, I was a little older, and it definitely got me very excited about New York City. I had never been to New York City, you know, as a kid, and seeing that movie, and you know, I feel like very, very influential to me. I really liked Home Alone 2 as a kid. It really got me excited about New York City. It really got my hackles up.
Yeah, and I think, and it was a little bit different, even though he used tricks and gimmicks to get who was following him. It was different. Like the first time it was unexpected, and now you're like, oh, what's Kevin gonna do next?
Yeah. So
my thing looking at it, because I get it, you shouldn't try to rationalize films. It's a fucking film. But at the same time, I would have been like, if I have that hotel room and all the accessibility, room service, and all, why the fuck am I going to go to Central Park or where? I mean, why do I leave? I mean, why would you ever literally never leave that hotel room. I do not. So I get it. So I'm going to ask you for one more because my fifth is actually 3 through 5. So I'm going to have to explain all mine at once. So now we have Gremlins bringing up the rear, and then we have Home Alone 2, or 2 is what you're slotting in there. Okay.
I'm gonna put Home Alone 2 just for what you just said. How kind of like we've seen this before. I do think personally, I like Home Alone 2 more than Home Alone 1, but yes, I'm gonna rank it lower for whatever reason. And then next on my list would be Elf, and we kind of talked about that.
Elf is amazing, and it's weird that
was Elf on your list.
It was not. I
Was
mean,
not? Okay.
it is. I mean, it would easily make my top 10. I only listed 5, and it would easily make my top 10. And I would if it's on, I would watch it. That was one that came out
Mm-hmm.
when our kids were young,
Mm-hmm.
so that was pretty. I mean, I'm sure we saw it at a theater, and then I'm sure we own it. I'm sure we own a
Yeah.
lot of these movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so
It's a
so
new
I
classic for sure.
it is. And, I can't imagine there have been anyone else. I don't know who wrote that movie, if Will Ferrell had a part in it or if it was written specifically for him, but I can't
Yeah.
imagine anyone else
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
that character.
Definitely.
Just
Definitely.
that was a very, very I enjoy that movie very much, but it did not make my list. But I'm
Okay.
gonna jump to my list because we've been hearing about your list. So
Let's do it. Let's
my,
do it.
I have. Actually, I'm gonna do my 4th and 5th, and then I'm gonna set. I have 3 movies because they're similar in vein.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm gonna separate 2 because they're more similar than the third one. So my bottom 2 are Violent Night and Fat
Whoa.
Man. Yeah,
Whoa.
Violent Night was
So
the one that just came out with David Harbour, and then Fat
okay.
Man was the one with Mel Gibson
So
and
those
Walter
are pretty
Goggins.
similar, right? Those are
Yes.
okay, so we have to let's preface this just a little bit. I didn't know what you were going to say. So I haven't seen these
Right.
movies. I'm
No,
unprepared.
I did not give you my list at all. Have you
and
seen either one of those?
I have not seen either of those movies. I'm intrigued by them, and I know what they're about. But
Yeah.
maybe you can help me out a little bit because I know generally what they're about. Let me just try to guess and tell me how close I am. Okay.
Okay.
So
Violent
Fat
Night
Man
with.
Oh, okay. So Violent
Oh,
Night.
I was gonna say, so Violent Night is the one that I remember the least. I think
that's
it came
that's
out.
an animatronic Santa, right?
No, that's David Harbour as Santa from Stranger Things.
Wait. But so in Violent Night, is he the actual Santa or
Yes.
he is? Okay. For some,
Yes.
I was thinking maybe Violent Night was this one where there's a robot Santa that kind of like comes alive and starts doing.
No, but I would be interested
Interested in
in
that
a
one.
movie like that, definitely. So
Okay.
no,
So
he's
tell me
a
about the David
Santa.
Harbour. So he's Santa.
So he goes and a family gets kidnapped when he arrives at their house. So he decides to help out, and he's not quite as friendly as Santa. And so what I had written down was, first of all, I understand why Santa Claus would be crazed, and
Right.
like in both Fat Man with Mel Gibson and Violent Night, why they may have some I mean, I deal with the public and not as often kids, but kids are just horrible. I mean, I love my
Sure.
kids to death, but I mean,
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, so I could understand why they would be crazy. And I also think it's funny that I wrote down in the new violent Santa Claus movies or theme movies, because both of I think Fat Man came out a couple years, maybe 3 years ago, and Violent Night last year.
Yeah.
That Santa is more buff now, like
Yeah.
working out all the time, and I
Got
think it's
nothing to
funny
do out
that
there.
yeah, well, I think it's funny as America gets fatter and fatter. Santa, the jolly old fat man, he's slimmed down and
He's
now
slimming
ripped
down.
as can be. Yeah. So Fat Man is
the CIA hires Santa now, and is there more backstory in Fat Man about Santa's origins? Is that
there is some about his origin, but yes, he is working in conjunction with the government doing things, and then there is a young boy who doesn't get the gift he wants. So because he is entitled, he decides to hire a hitman, because all young kids know hitman. They're on their speed dial. And so the hitman also had a beef with Santa, so he goes after Santa. And I just like him because they were a different twist on the traditional holiday movie.
Now a movie with Mel Gibson, though, I'm afraid, is there any kind of moralizing from him? Because I know that's this thing with him with the Apocalypto and the Passion of the Christ.
No, I mean, I didn't read that in, and I mean, sometimes
like
I feel I can read that in, but sometimes I feel like people will try to to foist that upon, like they did it once, so they must do it every time.
So
Yeah, I don't like him for something he did, so now I named it Demon Knight. I didn't
see
find
it.
that. No, and I thought it was entertaining. Like I say, it was a different take. It wasn't a feel good movie. It was an action movie, but it was totally based on the North Pole. I mean, that one you have elves and so there was a lot going on, and I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not a great movie, but if it's on at Christmas time, I'll definitely I would watch it without a problem. Yeah.
I like
okay.
it.
So those are my Fat Man and Violent Night. My third one is going to be.
Can I interrupt 1 second? Both of those movies makes me. Have you seen Silent Night, Deadly Night from the 80s, which was like the Christmas slasher?
I'm sure that
I've
I'm
never
sure
seen
that
it.
I have, because I was into I mean, I saw like every I loved movies. It didn't matter how bad it was. I was going to see the movie.
The VHS cover for that was at my Blockbuster as a kid. I was so scared of that movie. I've never seen it. I don't know that I ever will, because I'm scared of and Santa is the killer. It's Santa like axing people, I think.
You know what's and I don't know if you and I have talked about this before, but I had seen the movie on HBO in like, I don't know, 79, 80, 81, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I'd have been like 12 or 13, of the movie Phantasm. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah. We have talked about that, because Phantasm used to freak me out too.
And so when I bought the DVD, I was like, I can't wait to watch it. I kept talking it up with the kids, and then I always had an excuse to not watch it. And I think it was I was actually nervous to watch it, but then as soon as I was like, oh my God, this is so fucking stupid. Right. So I do think I've seen that movie, but I can't. I mean, it obviously didn't stick out enough to me that I recall.
Yeah, it's probably. But, I mean, it seems like it'd be really stupid, but.
And my best friend growing up, that was something that we did well into our 20s, probably early 30s, even when we were both married and had children. Once our families would go to bed, we'd go see a late night movie together, because we just loved seeing movies. Right. And so I'm sure that probably was on our radar and we saw it, but I don't remember Silent Night. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
I think that's what it's called. Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Okay. So what's next on your list?
Let me get my notes again. I think we talked about Elf. We said Elf was great. Yep. We said, hold on 1 second.
Like I say, I in my book, Elf is more of a Father's Day movie for me.
Okay, so here's a good one. We're on the dark path here. So we did Fat Man. This is kind of the dark path. One Magic Christmas. Do you remember this one with Mary Steenburgen?
No, and Christmas. I know Mary Steenburgen, but I don't remember that.
And
Magic Christmas.
And Harry Dean Stanton. Playing kind of a angel, if I recall. He's like a ghost or an angel. It's probably like the most depressing Christmas movie ever. I highly recommend this one to you.
Thank you so much. Hold on. Or maybe
to have
more of that one.
To have the experience of watching One Magic Christmas is a very unique experience, because it's a Disney movie, but and you think that you're going to get a happy Christmas ending, and you kind of do, but it's you live in a real gray world at the end of that movie.
So I had written this down, and this will be a nice into it, is you said a happy Christmas ending. Do you know of much Christmas themed porn?
Christmas themed porn?
Because it seems like at Christmas time, I'm always like seeing outfits like on Bobby. I'm like, and it's weird that it's like, the Christmas theme, because I would never have thought that Santa's probably what I don't see Mrs. Claus as being particularly
sexy,
breathtaking, but I don't. But they always make the Christmas stuff so sexy, and so I just wondered whether that was in porns, whether that was a theme.
I mean, I think that I think what you're talking about.
Ho.
I think it kind of crosses into Halloween territory, though, right? Like, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I'm thinking of Mean Girls. In Mean Girls, the famous Christmas dance thing they did, which was pretty suggestive, I guess. I'm sure there's Christmas porn, that people are into. I wonder if there's like specifically Santa porn, which would be really kind of interesting. No, I don't know. I don't know anything personally.
I would think that there probably is something like that out there. Okay. So, and what is the name of that again? I have to write that down. One Magic Christmas.
Yeah, definitely try to seek out One Magic Christmas with Mary Steenburgen. Great movie. It actually is a pretty good movie. Yeah, because it is so kind of expectation defying. I don't want to give anything away.
Yeah.
Basically, it's kind of the situation where the dog dies.
Well,
the dog dies.
I think once you said it's one of the most depressing Christmas movies out there, the cat's out of the bag on that one. So I'll have to get into the right mindset for that. So my next one, which would be number 3, and it kind of lumps in with Fat Man and Violent Night because it is there's violence in the movie. It's called Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that one?
Yeah, of course. Is it Finnish or is it Danish?
I believe it's Finnish. It's from one of the Nordic Scandinavian up there. I believe it is Finnish though. Yeah. But that is one I very much enjoy watching. I've watched that the last couple years, and I do enjoy. I think
it's a little bit more about it.
So they're mining. It's some guys mining, and I can't remember if they're looking for Santa or they run into this tomb and it ends up being Santa, and then some guy knows about it and then calls Santa's not very good. He's more of like the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
Instead of like really bringing you presents and stuff, he would, if you're good, he wouldn't bring you presents. If you're bad, he would take you away.
Right.
Is basically what it was. And so, him getting thawed out was kind of interesting when it was a very different take on the story. And that's what I like, because you can rehash the same, love story or Two Christmases, all these different things. And, we've seen it and maybe a little different take and different actors and everything. But when I see something that's kind of fresh and new, that's what I enjoy that, because then it's worth sitting through for me.
Well, there is a dark element to Christmas, there's in the, I think it's in Germany, they have Santa Claus, but they also have Black Peter or Black Pete, and he whips the children. I think I'm maybe not getting this, but okay, maybe that, I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but there's a dark element to Christmas. The nights get longer. Classically, they would tell ghost stories at Christmas time, right? That's right. We've heard that, scary ghost stories, and that song.
I mean, even the classic stories, like the ghost coming to visit, the ghost coming to visit, the ghost at Christmas past was not he was not a happy looking, like, oh, I'll hang out with you. What's up, man?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So yeah, I think that is kind of cool that, they're exploring that other side of Saint Nick, his dark side.
And sometimes with foreign films, I enjoy foreign films myself. Not all of them, but I do, and that's one thing that I appreciated. Bobby was not. She is always like, I don't want to read a film. And so I needed, and so I never wanted to like push her and go, oh, I know this great foreign film, blah, blah, blah. I wanted to wait. I was like, there'll eventually be one that she'll really like. She'll like the story so much, she'll fucking read for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I forget the name of it, but it had Mads Mikkelsen. It was up for Academy Award a couple years ago, I think. Another Round.
Another Round.
I believe.
Love that one.
Yeah. And so that was the first one that Bobby watched that was foreign language.
Nice. Does she like Mads Mikkelsen? You got to get her into The Hunt. I think he's in The Hunt. No, if,
Yeah.
seen that
Another
one.
good one. I do very much enjoy Mads Mikkelsen.
Yeah, he's good.
The writers, gosh, what was the name of the writers of the storm? Something like that. That was a great movie. That has
Nice.
nothing to do with Christmas, but
Right. He's great in it,
that
though.
one, yeah, he's very good in it, and it has a great twist. There's enough comedic elements. There's enough action. There's enough that a lot of people really like it. There's the dynamics between Mads Mikkelsen and his daughter and their relationships. There, it is. I'll have to.
I got
It's
one.
called the.
I got one for you to write down for Bobby, because
Yeah.
here's how we can wean her into foreign film. I got a secret plot for you.
Okay.
The Palme d'Or winner this year was called it's called Anatomy of a Fall. It's fantastic. Great movie. It's called Anatomy of a Fall, and it's foreign. It's French, but there's extended parts that are in English. And I actually watched a version with open captions, so everything was captions. You could read the whole thing, but you didn't have to read the whole thing. So I feel like we can show her this and be like, this is a foreign film, and she won't even know because there's so much of it that's in English.
Right.
It's gonna, yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I wrote that down, and that's good too, because there are some
Not
movies. There are some movies that they'll go back and forth between, there'll be English actors which will speak English, and I actually prefer that. I mean, growing up in the 70s and 80s, now if someone is Russian, they'll have them speak Russian. If they're supposed to appear Russian, they'll have them speak Russian and subtitle it. Back in the day, they would just have you speak English with you would make it sound like I had a Russian accent.
Well,
hello, I am a Russian. Do you believe me? Yeah, hello.
I hope the age of that is ending. But I watched House of Gucci recently, and they certainly still do. They're supposed to all be Italian, but they're all just talking like Italian. And they're like, Italian. Oh, that's a meatball. It's ridiculous.
So I remember, and I'm trying to remember the name. There was a Clint Eastwood movie where he goes to Russia to steal some super jet.
Okay.
God, and I can't remember the name of it, but I remember him having to pretend like he's Russian or something at some point in that movie.
Does he speak Russian, or he just puts on an accent? He just put on
an accent. Yeah, it was like the early 80s. So that I remember seeing that movie. Now I'm going to say that most likely I snuck into the movie and not paid.
Yeah.
I can say that now because the movie theater is gone. The mall's gone. But it was at Metcalf South Shopping Center. I lived behind there, and I used to sneak into. I used to go in the exit. When people would be exiting out, I'd be like, sorry, I forgot my hat in there. Wow, such an idiot, and just go in there and be ready for the next showing to take place.
Exactly. Hey, Hollywood's got a lot of money.
They do. So the name of that movie was Writers of Justice.
Which is
yes, and
never seen it. Never
heard
of it.
If you watch the trailer for it, you'll want to watch it. It is there's action, like I say, there's dynamics with his daughter. He hooks up, and then there's a great twist at the near the end of the movie. And I thought it was a great movie. That was the second movie. So she watched the first one, another round, and she really liked it. And we had seen Mads Mikkelsen and other stuff. So then I asked her to watch that, and I told her I had already seen it. But with that movie, you can read and kind of watch. You don't have to read every word. Another round, you pretty much have to read the dialogue. With this,
sure.
I'm assuming that he's screaming good as he's in pain. I don't need to exactly know the words that are coming out of his mouth. But that's an excellent Mads Mikkelsen. I know we got sidetracked on that, but that was an excellent film as well.
Excellent movies.
I love films. I really do. I was talking to someone about I have my website, but I haven't done anything to it. And what I want to do is build it out, but where it will show now playing, and it'll have the current episodes, the last X number of episodes, but have it laid out where it looks like the old movies that were listed in the newspaper or whatever.
That's cool.
And
That'd be cool.
I used to love walking out of theaters and just I would want to spend time looking at each poster because that's how I learned about the next movie. Because they spent so much time on the movie. And so like that's what I would have movie posters on the website saying, coming soon, and it may have a date or something. Because movies played such an impact to me. I mean, and a lot of it, to the bane of Bobby, is I love to figure things out.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to figure out movies, which now I do it and I'll say something, 10 minutes into a movie and Bobby looks at me like, she has not seen a movie with me ever that she's probably found enjoyable because I've ruined it for her in some way. So, but that's just the way it is.
You're a snickerpuss. You're a snickerpuss. That's what I get called because I tend to snicker at things, even very serious things.
Snicker puss.
I can't say that I didn't snicker in Schindler's List, but I almost snickered. That's how much I snicker.
Hold on, I was gonna say I thought you made out in Schindler's List.
I didn't make out.
Wasn't that from
snickered?
Wasn't that from Seinfeld?
That was in Seinfeld.
Didn't he get in trouble? Yeah, he got in trouble for making out during.
I think he was in strict chastity or something. Like he had to make, like he was like, I don't know. It's a very strange episode, but yeah, like it was something like they didn't see each other for a month or something, or it doesn't really
I'm trying to remember.
But...
No, it doesn't. But so Bobby and I used to love doing that. We used to try to find movies that had been out for a long period of time. Yeah, and then hopefully go late enough at night that we were the only couple there. And it inevitably we would get fucked. The movie would start, they'd play all the previews, and the movie would start, and we'd be the only couple in there, and we'd be like, we gonna do it in here. And then another couple would fucking walk in. And you're like, or even worse, it'd be like just a single person would walk in at that point.
Right. That's
okay. What's next?
Those are my my first sexual experiences are all in movie theaters. Like that was the only place as a teenager I could be alone with another person, and so they're all every primal sexual experience is in a movie theater, which is kind of interesting.
It's weird because
that I chose that to be my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm trying to remember whether Bobby's even given me a handy over my jeans in a movie theater. So we've had. I always talk about. I call it a CATS designation, like an EGOT. Like people that have won an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, Tony. Well, CATS is if you've had sex in a car, an airplane, a train, and a ship. So if you've had sex on all those, then you would have a CATS designation. But we've never had sex in a theater. We've planned many a times, and we've worn outfits. I mean, I think I was wearing tearaway sweats at one point. Wow. We were so like, this is gonna happen.
Trying to do it, it's gonna happen, but it never happened. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I have a sound. And for you that are watching the video, if you don't hear that, it's a wham, wham, wham.
We'll have to do. Maybe we should do visual drops. We should have some little signs that you hold up or something, perhaps.
That's what I need. Just I could pay someone to just pop up. I've often thought about that because that's another thing. Like doing a video podcast. If I do my single solo show, like I don't know how to add graphics and stuff. Yeah. So I literally thought about just going and this and then holding it.
I love it.
Hey, it worked. You were able to see fine on there, so that worked for me.
Lo-fi stuff is great.
What's next on your movie? Now, have any of these movies thus far, or all of them thus far, must-sees every single year?
The only one that I would say is a must-see for me is Eyes Wide Shut. I watch Eyes Wide Shut every year for sure, and sometimes not during the holidays. Sometimes I feel like I watched Eyes Wide Shut just this summer, so. That's a must see. It looks like we've gone through my complete list. The first one on this list was Home Alone, but I also had these two alternates, which were, and we've already talked about them. And I think it would be a big mistake if we didn't talk about just A Christmas Carol and all the different kind of versions of A Christmas Carol that are out there. Because I feel like
I never even thought of Scrooged for this.
And Scrooge,
but see, that's one.
Scrooge.
See, that's one thing I do like thinking about it. But if I saw it was on, I may not record it or keep it in my favorites or whatever. But if I sat down, I may watch it. But I never even thought of that. But that is a great Bill Murray movie.
Yeah, it's a
Scrooge.
pretty great Bill Murray movie. It's a pretty good movie, and I think, but in general, the fact that like it's a Christmas Carol, you know, and I think a Christmas Carol, that story, the Mickey's Christmas Carol, the George C. Scott TV version of A Christmas Carol,
Oh man,
and
I remember that
Scrooged.
too.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the elephant in the room in a lot of ways, because that really is the I read a really interesting this guy I can't remember all the details, but in any case, this he was talking about Scrooge, and he was saying Scrooge is not a bad guy because he's a capitalist. He's a bad guy because he's not a capitalist, because he hoards money. So like A Christmas Carol is not, it's not teaching us to be anti-capitalist during the holidays. It's actually teaching us to be to you know, the first thing he does when he's got his new lease on life is that he buys the big goose. Like he goes out, he starts buying things.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
often we think of A Christmas Carol as this thing that's supposed to teach us the meaning of Christmas, and it does, but it teaches us a very kind of interesting, our cultural version of Christmas, which is a very kind of, material version of Christmas. Scrooge's crime is not being rich. Scrooge's crime is hoarding money. So it's very interesting.
That is interesting. And I worked at a mall for a long time. I mean, I spent many a Christmas working at a mall. And man, you could really see in the late 80s, early 90s, there was some really bad behavior. I mean, people grabbing stuff out of people's hands and just it. So yeah, I never even thought about it that way. For as much as I think about weird, stupid shit, like what time I would prefer, what time of the day and what time of the year I would prefer aliens to arrive. I given that lots of thought, but then I watch a movie and I'm just like, okay, it's a movie. So I mean, I never had given it that much thought. I mean, and I never really.
I give A Christmas Carol a lot of thought, just because it is kind of like a thing that I feel like it's always been around. Like since I was a little kid, I've always had this like Scrooge myth kind of presented to me in different versions. You know, the cartoon, the George C. Scott, the Scrooge, and it is like it's real good. One of my old partners wanted to do she wanted to do Carol's Christmas, and she wanted to make Scrooge a lady. I think she wanted to make Scrooge a Jewish lady. It was her idea, but to do the same sort of thing. And anyway, I just think it's a really interesting story, and the 3-part kind of structure. You know, past, present, and future. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating story.
It is an amazing story. And have they made it again since Scrooge?
I think so. Yeah.
I mean,
I think there was a more recent TV movie, or like streaming version movie. Like I think there's like maybe like a Netflix kind of version that's out there right now, or maybe it's BBC. I can't really remember. But yeah,
I think a few years ago they may have done that live too.
And then they also did a animated version with Jim Carrey, I think, with Robert Zemeckis, I think, did it, and it was like a big budget animated, but like that weird, like animated, but they look like the actors,
the character, so which never made sense. Just
looks really weird.
Yeah.
So they did that too, I think, in the 2000s. I did not see any of those that I'm talking about, so who knows if they exist or not, or what they are. But
okay. So, so do you have any other classic movies? Because there's certain movies that, and I actually we'll talk about it later, because a little bit later, because I did want to tie it into something else, because I have some ideas for some new Christmas movies, because I think it is getting a little stagnant. Yes, do the violent Santa movies. Is that new and fun? Sure. But you can only make Santa so violent in so many different ways. So, I mean, come on now.
So we're getting up to your like number 2, right? Or are we at your number 3?
Yeah, and so I'm actually going to give an honorable mention to a couple movies. One that I enjoy watching just because our youngest child, Trinity, likes it immensely is Krampus. Have you ever heard of that?
Krampus.
Yes. And there's
Okay,
a
is
ton of
Krampus the one who
different
does the whipping? Is Krampus the
he
whipper?
well, I think he eats kids.
He eats.
There's
Okay.
yeah, so there's like a shitload of different versions of Krampus, and there's only one good one. How that's identified, it's through the thumbnail. Like I could see it and go, "Oh, that's the one we watched." But there are a whole bunch of different versions. But we always have enjoyed that one. And then one that I've always enjoyed, and it's very much a holiday movie, but I think it was more Thanksgiving than Christmas, was Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, I mean, I
Love that
always
movie.
love that. I mean, because
Yeah.
that had a because of Steve Martin and John Candy, a lot of great one-liners. Like I remember
Definitely.
when I use it all the time here in the Midwest where I live, being from Florida, and I like it so hot that there's a scene in the movie, and I think they're in the back of a pickup truck, and he goes, "What do you think the temperature is?" And he just goes, 1. And I that's how I always feel. When it gets to a certain temperature, it just always feels like it's 1 degree
It's
here.
1
So,
degree.
yeah, so because that was a good one about, trying to get home, and it had a good story. There was humor to it. That's one that I
And
have
that, I
not
think,
seen.
That is John Hughes too. Actually, I'm pretty sure about
Okay,
that.
yeah.
That
I mean,
Planes,
he
Trains,
made a
Automobiles,
lot
John
of great
Hughes.
movies
He did.
back then.
Yeah.
And John Candy was in a lot of them. I remember another one that I really liked with him was Uncle Buck.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That was a
Like
great
Uncle
one.
Buck. And that's got the young Macaulay Culkin, the first appearance of Macaulay.
Which is funny because now that we're talking about all these movies with Macaulay, he was recently on Celebrity Jeopardy. So
yeah, and he was on Red Letter Media. Do you ever watch Red Letter Media?
I do not.
It's a YouTube. It's not really a podcast. I guess it's just like a YouTube TV show. They're great. They talk about movies. They're really funny, really smart guys. They had Macaulay Culkin on to talk about Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Really?
Yeah,
I love that movie.
For
we
the
need
Paul
to talk.
Rubens
I know
death.
that you're a big fan of Pee-wee, and we've talked a little bit about Pee-wee, but we'll have to do something with Pee-wee. That doesn't sound. Hold on. Okay, so number 2, it's one that, and maybe it's because I am older than you. Maybe it just caught me at the right time or whatever. Christmas Vacation. So these the top two, I will watch every year. The other movies, the other movies, I may or may not. Christmas Vacation, 100% is watched every single year in our house. Yeah,
right on. Chevy Chase.
I thought it was a great
Beverly
movie.
D'Angelo.
Yeah. And then the
Beautiful
girl
woman.
from the
She's
counter.
beautiful.
Yeah. The girl from the lingerie counter. When Chevy Chase at the beginning of the movie, he makes a fool of himself.
She's a pretty famous model, right?
I don't remember. I
Paulina
always thought
Korsakova,
she would be.
Maybe, or
I don't think it. I don't think I've actually. I think I did look it up. I think that everyone is. I don't think she is famous. I'm gonna have to look that up because this is my problem. I will say that for as many times as a youngster as I masturbated to her, I probably should know her name. I just feel like that's something that's appropriate. Like not knowing her name seems it seems dirty at this point, not knowing her name. But that whole movie I think is funny. There's so many one-liners. I liked it so much. I mean, I'm wearing the Clark Griswold hockey jersey sweater.
Jersey.
Yeah. So just Cousin Eddie. That's a classic one when people will be like, "Oh, we're gonna wear your best Christmas sweater." A perfect one is the dark Dickie with the white sweater so you can see the outline. That's always perfect. Another one that I love from that on Christmas Sweater Day is wearing a cardigan sweater and then taking a stuffed animal squirrel and attaching it to the back. Because if you remember, the squirrel jumps on his back and he's running around. So you can just walk around, and from the front, it's almost like a mullet. Because from the front, it's business, but then in the back, it's party.
Exactly.
Because of the squirrel on my back. So I just absolutely love Christmas Vacation, though. I think it's funny. I laugh every year. I know what's going to happen, and I still think it's a hilarious movie.
Yeah, I think there's something to those movies for sure. I enjoy them. I really like the first one. Just Vacation. Always. I would say Vacation's a movie I watch. Once every couple years for sure. I make it a point to watch it. I wouldn't say that I put on Christmas Vacation every year, but I do really like that first one. Yeah, the original.
So
one,
here's something I will tell you. I remember seeing the original Vacation. So my parents were leery to take me. I probably was 15ish when that came out. So I was just under
age.
Well, yeah, but to see ours, you got to be mature enough, 17 or whatever. So I think I was probably 14 or 15 when it came out. And we had traveled, our family owned land in Bella Vista, Arkansas, which is very northwest. Arkansas is very developed and a great place to live and just thriving now. Back then, it was fucking northwest Arkansas. That's what it was. It was not developed. It was nothing. And so we were trying to figure out something to do while we were in the backwoods for some why we vacationed there. I have no idea. And so we went to, I believe I want to say it was Fayetteville, whatever the closest big town was to see the movie
Not
Vacation.
A lot of big towns there.
There are not. And we saw Vacation, and I remember arguing with my mom. And this is the day when you couldn't pull up, clips on YouTube. There was none of this. This was the early 80s, like 83, I think. But my mom was appalled because she thought that you saw Christy Brinkley's boob in the movie. And I said, no, you don't.
No, you don't.
And she goes, yes. And I go, you see side boob. And I think I was using this term in the 80s because I probably was saying you just saw the side of her boob. Did it just, I probably said it in full like that. But I remember saying, when she's in her underwear and she goes to jump in and she takes her top off and you can see like kind of the side of her boob. And I remember having this big conversation because my mom was appalled. Then my dad would take us to a movie that shows a woman's boobies.
Wow.
And then I remember arguing with my mom because she was like, I can't believe we saw a movie with boobs. And I kept going, what are you talking about? We didn't see any boobs. And so then it finally got down because I was so oblivious. I didn't even know what she was talking about because to me, and at that age, as a 15-year-old, 14-year-old, I'm sure that if the wind blew at the right temperature, I probably got a hard on. So I would, if Christy Brinkley would have been full on frontal nudity or tits out or something, I'm sure I would have remembered it. I would have been like, I don't know what you're talking about. Which here's a side note with my mom. This is the kind of disconnect her and I have sometimes. So she thought she saw full boobage when in actuality it was not. So I had on the program before many times Liv LaRue, who is a courtesan and a madam. And I've told my mom that. And so like last time I had dinner with her, my mom said, have you talked to that sex trafficker lately?
Oh God.
And I'm like, who are you? I go, what are you talking about? She goes, you had the sex trafficker on. I go, I have never had a sex trafficker on my show before.
She's conflating terms here, I think is
and that's the problem. That sometimes, and it's like, you are so when she's taking her top off and you see the side boob, she was so not committed. She was so convinced that they were going to show the front boob, the areola and everything, that she just assumed that it actually happened.
Well,
and that's the problem.
Yeah, our imaginations are more powerful than than what we actually see, right? You fill in the blanks. That's a great thing about movie making, I guess.
It is. So we are now to my my number one movie. Oh, and the other thing I must say about Christmas Vacation is I always see me as a Clark Griswold. I mean, most of what he does through that entire movie is exactly how I would handle things. Yeah, if you remember when he sees the guy, I can't think of his name. It's like a female's name. His boss, which is one of the Bill Murray's brothers, Brian Doyle Murray, I think is who it is. And they start going through and he's like, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas, Merry Christmas. And then he gets to a guy and he's like, Happy Hanukkah. And then he's like, go fuck yourself. And it's just funny because it just gets progressively worse as he's saying. And I always have seen me. I have loved the Christmas Vacation. European Vacation, I actually thought was funny. I didn't like the kids in that one. Vegas Vacation, I thought was very funny. The kids were not as bad as European Vacation, but no one's going to be Anthony Michael Hall and what's her name in the second one.
Audrey. Audrey
yes.
won.
Yes.
Audrey won.
That's
actually one of my favorite things about those movies. Are the replaceable children? That's hilarious. That it's pretty funny.
And it's funny that that they thought Anthony Michael Hall was going to be so big after that. I think that what was it? Johnny Be Good.
Yeah.
As he played a college football recruit that got into all sorts of mayhem on his college visits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They thought he was going to be really big after doing so well because Vacation was such a big movie. And
he was a cute kid, but he just didn't age well, I don't think. He kind of, he looked a little weird as he got older. And he was cute when he was young, and he kind of looked weird as he got old. I think his last movie that I remember him, I'm sure he's been in other stuff because he's an actor, but the last thing I remember him in is Edward Scissorhands. Kind of a Christmas movie.
Yeah, I don't even remember him in that. I mean, I vaguely remember that movie.
He's the bully. He kind of plays like Johnny Be Good again, but he's like a real evil bully, pushing Edward Scissorhands around and trying to molest.
I mean, that's one of those ones. I mean, most movies I don't want to see multiple times. I just really don't have a desire to. But there are some, and I am finding that right now, how well movies age. Like, I've been going back to thinking about movies, especially movies that I saw with my dad.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, like Rambo. I watched Rambo First Blood, which I saw with my dad. I've seen a couple of the old Peter Sellers Pink Panther movies.
Yeah,
he used to love those movies.
Yeah.
He used to absolutely love those movies. And like Blue Thunder, I remember going to see with Roy Schneider in it, or Scheider, whatever, Scheider.
From Jaws.
And it was, so I've been revisiting some of those movies, and most of them are still pretty good and hold up very well. But I find that even if the movie doesn't, it's buoyed by the fact that I saw those movies with my dad or with my family or with a loved one or someone. And so sometimes that overwhelms the fact that it's not that great a movie, because I find myself focusing on the feelings that I'm reliving or feeling than I am like actually watching the movie. Oh, I remember when my dad and I laughed at this. We're like, we were in shock that this happened. So that was kind of, so that's been fun to do.
Yeah. Movies bring us together, they do all sorts of great, I mean, just like we were saying before about, sexual experiences. I mean, that's part of it. And the communal experience is real nice. It's real important.
It is. And that's one thing that I miss. I mean, I remember going to the movie theater when you had to go buy tickets. You couldn't buy them online early and stuff. So I remember, you drive there in the afternoon to buy your 10 o'clock at night tickets and things like that. But you would go there and especially when it was warm here in Kansas City, you would go to a multiplex that would have, dozens of theaters, or there are a couple, there's one that has 30 here locally, and there'd just be so many people there, and everyone would be in a good movie, and you'd hear a lot, just hear all the noise because people were talking about the movie they were going to see or the movie that they had just seen, and all of that was so much. I agree. I miss a lot of that. There, like I say, there's so much in my life that I was trying to think of interesting things that happened to me at the movies. And I remember one of the first times when I got to help teach Morgan, our oldest, about money and change and things like that, just being aware. So we had gone to a movie. It was just her and I don't remember the movie. She wanted a drink or something. I was like, that's fine. And I was like, I'll go get her. You want to go together? And she goes, can I just get it by myself? I was like, yeah, that's fine. And so I gave her like $10. I think I gave her 20 actually. And so she went to get a drink, because $10, like in a movie, it's like $8 for a drink anyway. So I'm not sure. I was just upset because when she came back, I go, "Do you have the chain?" And she goes, "Oh." And it was just funny because I was like, "Okay, maybe I should have gone." So yeah, you're gonna give them something. Generally, you'll give them more than what you should have given them. They'll give you something. It was just funny but it's one of those things. I don't remember the movie, but I remember the theater. I remember where we were sitting in the theater. So yeah, at least in my life, and I think to a lot of people, movies are very impactful. I know they are to you.
Definitely.
This is not the last thing I want to. I have a couple things that I want to close with, but I do want to my number one movie, and this is why I was concerned with parameters at the beginning.
Drum
So
roll,
this
please.
movie, yeah. So this movie was actually released March 6th of 1987.
So a spring movie.
Yes,
Spring movie. March.
6th, 1987.
March 6th, 1987. I mean, in my opinion, spring movies are kind of like that's a weird time because that's kind of like the dump. Late January and February is the dumping ground. That's where where like when studios have stuff that they don't really care about, they put it. So and March is like kind of part of that, but it's also like where they start putting in the early summer stuff. So I'm curious as to what this is going to be.
Oh, okay. You don't know. So I'm going to try to give you some hints. So,
okay. Cool.
So maybe the reason that it wasn't put at a better time of the year is that one of the stars, I'm sure they were in other things, but probably was not considered a co-star or probably a lead actor. And the other one was an Australian actor who had been in a critically acclaimed Australian film that I believe this was one of his first real starring roles.
Is this Mel Gibson again?
It is Mel Gibson.
Okay, Mel Gibson in an 80s Christmas movie.
And so now I'm going to tie it in with...
And you watch this every year? You watch this one every year?
Every fucking year. And the thing is, because I like to troll people that call Die Hard a Christmas movie.
And so you... Okay.
It's Lethal Weapon.
Lethal Weapon.
Because people will go, Die Hard's a Christmas. They go, Lethal Weapon's not a Christmas movie. I go, what the fuck are you talking about? The very first scene, the girl, when she jumps to her death, she's listening to Christmas music.
Right.
Then you cut to the very first scene where you're introduced to Mel Gibson, which is in the back of a truck at a Christmas tree lot, and he's doing a drug deal.
Yes.
And then you have like later the note for the bad guy is on the Christmas tree. The fight is out in front of a house at the end. The climactic fight with Gary Busey's at a fight outside at the end. So the girl's going. So and it's prominent. It's not like, and that's the problem that I have. And we've talked about this with Die Hard, that I just feel like the Christmas theme was like, it's a Christmas party at a building. And other than that, he didn't use any of the packages from the Christmas. There wasn't a gun that was hidden under the Christmas tree that it was basically just, it could have been St. Patrick's Day and it would not have fucking changed the movie.
Right.
And there was a lot that in the background, they would have had to change the setting. And so throughout the entire movie, Lethal Weapon, I see, and that was impactful for me. So I will tell you, with this haircut, I've always been into hair, and I actually had hair at the time. And I remember when this movie came out, this is one of the movies, and I don't know why, but it was so impactful to me because
you wanted Mel Gibson's hair.
Well, I remember this, and I hope that this isn't one of the, what do they call it? The Mandela effect. I distinctly remember when this movie came out, and I would have sworn it was a summer movie too, even with the Christmas theme. I was surprised at the release date. But I remember him and Danny Glover on the cover of, I think it was at the actual cover of USA Today. I'm not sure it was just the life section. I think it was the actual cover. Yeah. And it was promoting the movie and about him. He did Mad Max, which had got, cult following here in the United States and things like that. So I really remember it. And I remember he played such an interesting character and powerful character in there. He was on the edge, and you always, some people act like that, but you always had this fear that, he's literally on the edge. And so that to me, that is one that I love because it does have a lot of Christmas themes to it. So when our Christmas tree, which is always set up next to our tree or within viewing distance of our tree, so our tree glow is on the TV as I'm watching that movie. So Lethal Weapon and Christmas Vacation are two that I will watch every single
year.
Yes.
Every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Lethal Weapon is a I mean, yeah, if Die Hard's a Christmas movie, then I guess Lethal Weapon is too, for sure. I can't argue with that, And Lethal Weapon is like, I mean, the first one is kind of, I mean, it's a big franchise, and they get pretty ridiculous as they go on. From what I remember, but it is kind of like the blueprint for that kind of 80s cop movie, action comedy kind of thing, And
it was great. I mean, I really enjoyed that. And then they did, and then they got campy for a while, and then they went wild on the special effects and things like that.
Yeah. I think that I was just gonna say, I lost my train of thought. But the Lethal Weapon movies, the first Lethal Weapon movie. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. We were kind of tying back to what we were talking about, big cultural events, a lot of people at a theater. That it is the kind of the Lethal Weapon movies where like you could instantly reference something in those movies, and everybody cross culturally would know what you were talking about. It was a big, it made a lot of money, but beyond that, a lot of people saw it. It was, it is definitely that kind of movie that I just don't think it really exists anymore, at least in terms of movies. There's nothing like that in a theater anymore. I mean, kind of maybe like, maybe like Avatar or something is a little bit like that, but not in that same way,
Yeah. So and I agree. It's strange how movies are done down nowadays. Like, and I've told you, and I've made the commitment to you. I know, and I've made the commitment that I'll get back to a theater, and I still haven't done it. And here's the weird thing is that I get it, and I'm sure there are people, even though I am not a baby boomer, that will want to call me boomer. I wish I could still just open up a newspaper and look at the ads.
Sure.
I mean, I actually miss that. Or we used to have, here in Kansas City, a phone number you would call, and then it would read select one
Mr.
for
Movie
Ranch
Phone.
Mart.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, Mr. Movie Phone.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And I used to love, because then you would, after you got done with that, that's how you talk to your family. Your mom would be like, what do you want for dinner? I think I would like grilled cheese for dinner tonight at 4 p.m. and again at 4:20 p.m.
I loved Mr. Movie Phone, how he would say rated R. Rated R was always with a little edge in his voice. So rated R. It was always a little darker,
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I because so much I can remember short little bursts of my youth and childhood when I think about movies. And I mean, that's one reason, one of the many reasons I enjoy talking to you, because you enjoy talking about movies so much. I think that, you'll have different feelings, but the same ones are tied in, and how impactful, like even something can be, in that big theater at Ranch Mark. So they had just a gigantic theater like they did back in the day. Yeah. And I don't know how many hundreds it's seated in there. And the only movie that I physically remember being there, seeing the screen, remember it being up there, is Sharky's Machine with Burt Reynolds. And that was because...
Which I watched recently on Tubi, actually.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Tubi has such good movies on it right now. Yeah. It does.
I say get back into a theater. I was just back in a theater, and like I said, I watched Anatomy of a Fall, which is the... won the Palme d'Or this year, and I can't recommend. That was 2 big thumbs up from Timmy. Anatomy of a Fall. Okay. So if it's out there, but anybody else who's listening, maybe they haven't watched it yet, I give it a recommend.
Okay. I wonder. So I was thinking about this. This is one of the notes that I'd written down. If you're considering a movie, if you're considering writing, say, a holiday themed movie yourself,
sure.
Here's one where you could take a classic, 2 classics. You could take Miracle on 34th Street, which I believe is a classic. Isn't that a classic Christmas movie?
classic holiday movie. Yeah.
Okay. And then you
Definitely.
take Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a classic, and you
horror
turn
movie.
it into a Nightmare on 34th and Elm Street.
Nightmare on 34th and Elm. Wow.
Yeah.
I like
yeah,
that.
you can. Yeah, so you combine them. And here, lastly, and I know I always say lastly, and we keep talking. That's on me. If you decide that you may want to make an additional Man Baby, maybe not a direct sequel, and this movie that I'm going to reference. No, this movie actually came out on November 25th, 1987 or 89. I think it was 87. That was the original release date. So very much a holiday movie. Was 3 Men and a Baby. So 3 Men and a Man Baby.
3 Men and a Man Baby.
Or
like
if
it.
that's or if that's copywritten, then you could do 3 Women and a Man Baby, which may even be better. So
that made
just thoughts.
That made me think of a baby Jesus, man baby Jesus for Christmas.
Oh, that would be good too.
So a baby Jesus that's a man baby, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe baby.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Hey, I actually have something. If people want to watch Man Baby, I have something. I have prepared something special for the show. Can I do something?
Yes,
so
you
if
can.
Anybody's watching right now. If anybody's watching, they hold up their phone to the thing and they can scan that, and that will bring them right to Man Baby. I don't know if anybody's doing that right now, but if anybody's watching, let's see if that's in focus. It looks like it's in focus.
It does.
All they have
what we'll also do is if you can send me a copy of that, a link, then we will do that. We'll do that as well.
My movie's Man Baby. If anybody's watching that wants to watch it, they just scan that little code and
hold on. That sounds for me, because I just always, once again, sometimes I talk about how genius start at 5 when we forget steps 1 through 4. I just always feel like you and I know each other so well that I feel like the audience knows you so well that I forget to say, I introduce you as an award-winning writer, producer, director.
No, I love the intro. That was a great intro. That was great.
Right, but I don't think I said Man Baby to it. I
mean, maybe not. But
yeah.
By this
and I
point,
just assume that everyone knows, but we do have a growing audience, which I appreciate. Hold on. And for all of you that can't hear, that was the studio audience going crazy. Okay, so let's see. Yeah. I have one Magic Christmas to look up, and I'm drawing a blank. I need to write it down. What's the Tom Cruise one? Eyes Wide Shut.
Eyes Wide Shut. Yeah, Eyes Wide Shut. One Magic Christmas.
Okay. So what we'll do is this episode will be out the day before Thanksgiving here in the United States, and it will be out whatever the fuck that date is for the rest of the world, because I know you guys don't celebrate Thanksgiving. So you guys should. I mean, it's just a lot of food and eating and not working, which is the best. So you got big holiday plans, Timmy?
No, I don't have big holiday plans. I don't go in for these pagan rituals. For Thanksgiving, I'm gonna probably eat some food and hang out with some friends and my partner. And
so, by not, can you? So what do you do on those days then? Like on Christmas Day and everything? Well, I don't know.
I just.
Are we
chill.
back to everything being closed?
No, not here. I mean, things are open.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of just depends. I think last Christmas, well, something that I've been doing in my little family is that we've been doing pictures on the holidays. So we've been taking kind of I don't know how much I want to reveal because this is public, but let's just say they're sort of erotic pictures that we take on the holidays, and we're putting them together, and we're going to make a calendar of every month,
and who is this calendar for?
Kind of just for us,
Okay. I mean, that still works. That's awesome, though.
maybe some friends will get to see it, but a lot of maybe some friends won't, So we're working on that, and usually I do a little, work. I mean, I work every day, even when I'm not working my job. I'm trying to be creative and make shit,
I
So,
know.
you know how that is.
I know. I got book. I swear, these books I do, all these notes are gonna be used against me in a court of law someday. I just know it. I'll be like, "Oh, we want to introduce this as evidence A, B, and C." Yeah. Hold on. I almost did the sound. Oh, I need to for everyone else.
Or we got to make some signs.
I know.
We got to make some signs here.
I know.
But yeah, no, the holidays will be fun. It'll be good to have a day off of work, and but no trees. I'm not worshiping the Santa, and
So
maybe some gifts, but not.
Did you ever?
Yeah. When I was a kid, I had a traditional Christmas kind of upbringing with Santa and stuff. I got brought up Catholic, so we did the whole thing.
Right.
But
and we're gonna do that. It's actually
I got older,
it's actually like 30 pages back. We were gonna talk about the religion special.
I know.
I can't tell you. There's so many pages
about doing a religion special.
Yeah, and the thing that scares, and this is honestly the thing that I don't want to happen. I don't want to impact someone's faith. I know how important faith can be to a person.
Sure.
So I don't want to be I don't want to say someone that says they go, "Oh, well, I never thought," and then lose their faith. I don't mind pointing some things out. And when I point things out, I'm not trying to get them. Like when people, I mean, I'll start back, with Cain and Abel. I'll say something about that, and people get bent out of shit, and whatever. So we are going to do that episode sometime because I think that will be.
I love talking faith, and loss of faith is interesting to me, but we could also just talk about wacky religions too, because I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah, and it's interesting because Ricky Gervais gave one of the best comebacks I have, because I use it a lot when people, let's say my mom, she will say something like about an atheist. Well, they're an atheist; they don't believe in God. I go, what's wrong? Oh, they don't, and all this. I go, well, they just don't believe in your God.
Yeah.
And they don't believe in any God. I go, well, how many gods are there? And I think the way he said it was, and the way I tell it is, there's been like 3,000 gods. If you think about all the different gods that have ever been worshipped on the planet.
Yeah.
And so he just worships one less God than like my mom does, because she discounts those other 2,999.
Right.
And she, and he discounts all 3,000 of them. So it's the difference is
math.
really
one. It's
it is, but and so sometimes I think,
but it works out.
Yeah, I don't ever want to be. I don't ever want to be the person that ruins someone else. It used to be when I couldn't find my wife around the house. Like if I thought she'd be home and she wasn't there, my first thought was the rapture happened and she got taken and I was left behind.
And you got left behind.
Yeah. And then after 20, then it becomes a big joke, because then like we would come home and our kids wouldn't be there. And we're like, really? That's who got taken? We're left behind and they took the kids? Which, whatever. So we will definitely do that. So, well, I won't wish you a happy holidays. I will wish you a remainder of the year. How's that?
You could wish me a very Merry Christmas. you can wish me a Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
I'm
Christmas.
gonna have to sing.
I wish people Merry Christmas. I say Happy New Year. I say Merry Christmas. I say Happy Hanukkah if they want to have a Happy Hanukkah or a Happy Kwanzaa. For me, it's still Christmas. It's just like I just don't,
right.
It's a complex thing, and it really doesn't have to be. Merry Christmas, Ro. Happy Thanksgiving.
Merry Christmas. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Timmy. I mean, and that's one thing that I do think is funny, because most of my friends, the people I grew up with, were Jewish, and I was not. So it was never a big deal, because I could say Merry Christmas. I also knew when Hanukkah was, but I would say, even if I did and I said Merry Christmas and they responded Happy Hanukkah or Happy Kwanzaa or Happy what the fuck ever, it didn't matter to me. Because hopefully then I would remember next time, hey, Timmy, happy whatever you celebrate. Happy nothing. Happy Tuesday. Well, we're all like, hey, Timmy, happy this Thursday. Well, we're all doing Thanksgiving or whatever. Yeah, see, now we're getting off topic of the movies because I have other feelings about Thanksgiving or celebration of Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Because Thanksgiving is like,
that seems kind of rude.
It's weird. It's weird for sure. Yeah. Like, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, yes, happy Thanksgiving, sure, but I'm of two minds. It's like I get it. Like, Thanksgiving's not necessarily like a celebration for a lot of people,
right?
And it shouldn't be, and it isn't. And I kind of, I guess, kind of to your point about like you don't want to be the person that ruins someone's faith either. It's like I don't necessarily want to be the stick in the mud who's like, well,
yeah,
it's genocide, and it's like, yes, it is, but why is it why is it my place? I'm not native, I don't,
right.
It's really not my place. And so I don't know. Yeah. Who knows? But people can wish me happy Thanksgiving as much as they like. That's fine. I'm just not gonna, spend a bunch of money on turkey, and I'm not gonna wear a pilgrim hat. Sorry for the Thanksgiving episode.
I don't get the whole.
You asked me, and I said no pilgrim hats. I'm not gonna do that.
Oh, speaking of which, I think that there is a new scary Thanksgiving movie coming out.
There is, yeah, by Eli Roth, and it's called Thanksgiving. That
makes sense. That'll be easy for me to remember and look up.
Yeah, Eli Roth is the director, who actually I like. I've kind of come around on him. He's the guy who did Hostel. He's the Hostel director.
Okay, was he Bear in Inglourious Bastards?
Yeah, exactly.
He was. Okay.
I came around on him because of a movie he made called Knock Knock, which I enjoy quite a bit.
Oh, with Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves, yeah. If you've seen that movie, you probably would say, "Oh yeah, I know that Tim would like this movie," because it's about a suburban dad who gets kind of kidnapped in his own home by two models.
Yeah. What the girl was the one that played Marilyn Monroe. I can't think of her name.
Yeah, Armas is her last name, I think. Armas.
Yeah.
I can't think of her first name.
Yeah, and I think it was weird. I think that was her first. If I read it correctly, that movie was her first American role, and the only English she knew at that time were the lines for the movie.
Wow.
And she didn't have that many, I don't think. Yeah.
Yeah. She's great for what it is,
That was a very good. I watched this YouTube channel called Flick Connections. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but he does movie reviews, and a lot of times his taste runs similar to mine. Nice. And he had done that. And then I was like, and then I found the shower scene. I was like, how did I not know about this?
I'll have to check that one out. That sounds like a good channel.
Yeah. So, okay. So, I hope you have a happy upcoming Thursday. Yeah. So, can we even call these holiday movies for these? Are they holiday movies for you?
These are
terminology.
Winter season films. I just feel like when we do that, we just sound like old sticks in the mud or something. I'm not into like changing everything, but at the same time, I get it. It's
I know.
And,
you know what?
We've been talking about the commercialism for Christmas for 100 years now. Like, we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
So, and nothing's changing. So why get bent out of shape about it? Just say Merry Christmas and move on and live your life.
But here's the thing. Every year it seems like people want to say, oh, well, you can't say Merry Christmas. I go, who can't say Merry Christmas?
Right,
anymore?
Exactly. Who can't say it?
I've never heard someone not say it. And if you're not saying it, that whatever, it doesn't matter. So, okay. Yeah. So I hope that your enjoyment of late fourth quarter movie releases, how's that for a term?
Another year over A new one begun.
Yeah.
That's how I'll leave it.
So I do want to watch that Thanksgiving. So and actually our oldest, I think, is the one that sent that to me. So because she knew that we were going to be doing this program. So I'll have to watch that. I don't know if it's out or not yet, but I'll watch that one because
it'll be. I bet that'll be streaming soon. I bet that'll be streaming real soon.
Oh, so is it a theater movie?
I think it's in theaters now, maybe, or real, because of Thanksgiving. I mean, I think it's coming out like on Thanksgiving probably. And I think it'll be streaming. And I think it'll be streaming real soon. I think it's one of those. But we'll
you don't think it's going to be holed up at the local cinema for a year like Star Wars was?
I highly doubt it.
Yeah. See, and I remember that. That's about when you were getting born, I think, when Star Wars came out. And I just distinctly remember that being at our local theater for a year. I drive down, and Star Wars was always in the number one position.
But see, I think we talked about this. I have that memory of Home Alone opening at Christmas and then playing the next Christmas, and playing all through summer, and but no movies do that anymore. I mean, that will never happen again. I mean, I can't.
No, it won't.
I can't predict that it won't, but I don't think that it will.
I couldn't see. I mean, things get to. I mean, I remember back in the day when it would take a year, 18 months, 2 years for a movie to get to HBO.
Yeah,
and now
it was a big deal. Now it's like a big deal. When it came to HBO, it was like, whoa, it's an event.
Yeah,
we can tape it off of the television.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember getting the little tiny TV guides that were just for HBO. And it would just have, and it was one HBO, so there weren't multiple channels. And it wasn't even 24 hours. So they would end like, the last movie would play like at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, maybe later on the weekends. But it wasn't a 24-hour service. I don't remember originally, but I remember when Jaws got there. Mm-hmm. And that was a huge deal. I mean, it was a Saturday night release, and it was probably like 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or whatever. And I feel like it was released in the summer because I feel like it was going to be an evening release because I just remember it being light outside and everything. But I love movies.
Yeah.
Hey, Tim, thanks for coming into my life and talking with me about movies.
I appreciate it, bro. It's always a pleasure. I love doing your show. Thanks for having me. It gives me a chance to tell people about Man Baby, which is streaming on Tubi right now. So anybody listening, if you're looking for something to do over the holiday and you don't want to watch a conventional Christmas movie like we've been talking about, you can watch a non-Christmas movie about a man who becomes a baby.
Yes. And we could work on the short 3 Men and a Man Baby. I think that has traction. I think that for 2024 holiday season,
3 Men and a Man Baby.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
I like it.
Okay. Thank you again for joining. For everyone else, this is Tim Lightell, Timmy to the program. He is an award-winning producer, writer, director of the movie Man Baby, which you can currently see on Tubi TV, which is free. We always need to tell that. I don't even think you have to sign up for it. I think we've discussed that as well. If you sign up for it, I think you can go back and pick up where you left off.
Right.
Otherwise, you kind of have to fast forward and find it. But it's still a free service. And once you start Man Baby, you're going to finish it anyway, so you don't have to worry about that.
There you go.
Okay. And the QR code that you showed, we will have that. So if you've watched this and you could not scan it for some reason, please go to the Stone Genius on Instagram. We'll have that link on there as well, so you can go see Man Baby during your holiday season. So, okay. Thanks,
awesome.
Timmy.
Thank you, Ro. Have a great night. Thank you.
You're welcome. Much. You do the same. Hey, everyone else. I know you're probably not going to hear this music. My name's Ro. You've been listening to Stone Genius Podcast. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all later.